Hola, ¿qué tal? Yo soy la profesora Zapata. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be focusing on verbos como gustar. Verbs like, to like. Let's get started. Gustar means to like. Remember the personal pronouns we've learned in other videos, like yo, tú, nosotros, etc.? Well, you might want to bring that knowledge back because we're going to need it today. Verbs like gustar do not use personal pronouns yo or tú, just those two. So instead of using yo, you're going to replace it with a mí. A rough translation would be like to me. And then instead of using tú, you're going to use a ti. Rough translation, to you. The rest of the personal pronouns are used just like él, ella, ustedes, nosotros, nosotras, vosotros, vosotras, ustedes, ellos, y ellas. Those we do need. With verbs like gustar, we actually use something that's called indirect object pronouns, IOPs. So I've made the table. You should be familiar with it already. And on that table, I've placed the IOPs. I've also added the personal pronouns that belong to each IOP. For example, me belongs to the personal pronoun yo. Te belongs to tú. Le is shared with three pronouns: usted, él, ella. Nos is for nosotros and nosotras. Vos is for vosotros and vosotras. Les is for ustedes, ellos, ellas. If you feel like you're not following at this point, you definitely should go back to the previous grammar videos that talk about personal pronouns and conjugations. That way, this makes more sense to you. So if I want to say I like, I'm going to have two choices. The first one is me gusta. Me gusta. Notice how the me indicates I like. Me gusta. And I could also say in a longer version, a mí me gusta. A mí me gusta. You can get rid of that first part, which is a mí, but you can also use it. Either way is correct. This will make a little bit more sense as we move along in the lesson. Stick around. So we have other verbs that are conjugated just the same way that gustar is. Let's look at the literal translation of the verb gustar. It actually means it is pleasing. But in everyday language, we don't really use that. So we're going to translate it to like. The use of the IOP, which is the indirect object pronouns, it is to show to whom what is being described is pleasing to. Gustar gets conjugated in two ways: gusta or gustan. Notice how from the infinitive gustar, we got rid of the R in the first conjugation, and in the second one, we replaced the R with an N. That's it. Those are the only two choices. Other verbs that get conjugated in the same way using IOPs are some of the ones you'll see here. They are not the only ones. They are just some of them. Aburrir, extrañar, fastidiar, disgustar, interesar, and so on. You see the rest of them there. There are way more than these. Okay, so to understand this better, there's a lot to unpack in the next few slides. So stick around and hold on. There's kind of a formula that can help us put this verb together. And so if we know this formula, it will definitely help us keep an order. First, you start with the letter A. Then you add a personal pronoun. Then you add the IOP that belongs to that pronoun. Then you conjugate the verb gustar. And at the bottom, you either choose a noun or you choose an unconjugated verb. Not both, one or the other. That's the last part of the formula. So let's take a look at all the arrows and where they're pointing to. A nosotros nos gusta el arroz. That means we like rice. Simple as that. If we do the literal translation, it would really mean rice is pleasing to us, or rice pleases us. Okay, so back to the formula. The first arrow, just the A. Personal pronoun in this example is nosotros. The IOP that belongs to nosotros, because we're talking about something that we like, is going to be nos. Then gusta is gonna be conjugated with just that A, so you get rid of the R, because we're talking about a singular noun that follows it, which is el arroz. El arroz means rice, that is a noun in this case. Now, remember how before I mentioned that there were kind of two ways in which you can do a sentence. And I gave you some brackets in that first example of me gusta or a mí me gusta. So now you're going to see the same example as before, but you're going to see it in both ways. We can either say a nosotros nos gusta el arroz, or you can say nos gusta el arroz. You can start your sentence with your IOP, which is why the first top of the formula is crossed out. Notice that you cannot do this with all of the IOPs. Why? Because if you go back to the beginning of the video where you see the IOPs listed, you notice that there are 3 on the singular side, personal pronouns that share just one IOP, and 3 personal pronouns on the plural side that share just one IOP. So with those, we will have to state who we're referring to. Okay, the previous examples we looked at, we only saw the formula with a noun, just like this one. A ella le gusta el camarón. She likes shrimp. Now, shrimp is a noun in this case. Therefore, the formula is being used with a noun. If you break it apart, you see a plus personal pronoun ella plus IOP le, which belongs to ella, plus gusta in a conjugated form. In this case, is singular because we're talking about just shrimp in singular form. And then the noun. A ella le gusta el camarón. Because le is an IOP that's shared with usted, él and ella, this is why I cannot start my sentence with my IOP le. If I said le gusta el camarón, unless it was already stated in the conversation who we're referring to, we wouldn't really know. Okay, now let's look at ejemplo con un verbo. If you look at the bottom in yellow, you get to see a different example using a verb. A ella le gusta correr. Notice how gustar does not really change in conjugation. It stays with that A, right? We got rid of the R. Why? Because there's a verb that comes after it. And in the verb, we do it in a singular way. So we say gusta. She likes to run. Correr is a regular verb in the present tense, and we're only talking about the present tense with the verb gustar. Again, the table is very important to carry us through different grammatical concepts. As you see the table on the left side of the screen, again, we're doing gustar in just the present tense right now. We would normally conjugate it gusto, gustas, gusta, so on and so forth. We do not conjugate gustar or verbs like it that way. We don't do that. So cross that out. And now remember, we only conjugate it in 2 ways. We either say gusta, where we've gotten rid of the R at the end, for singular nouns and verbs. Or we say gustan if we're talking about plural nouns. Let's put that into action. Ejemplos. This will make more sense. Número 1. Me gusta leer libros de terror. Me gusta leer libros de terror. Notice how here my sentence began with my IOP. So this is the short version. I can do that because me only belongs to yo. That IOP is not shared with other pronouns. So when I state me gusta, I already know, or anyone knows, that I'm talking about myself. I like reading horror books. If you plug in the formula, here you see IOP plus conjugated verb gusta plus a verb. And now gusta is in its singular form. It ends in A because it's followed by a verb. Número 2. My formula here starts with the A. A ustedes les gusta cocinar. It's another example using a verb. However, the longer version is here. It starts with the A. Why? Because les is an IOP that's shared with 3 different pronouns. With ustedes, with ellos, and with ellas. And unless it's already been stated in the sentence who we're referring to, we wouldn't really know. So I'm going to start with a ustedes les gusta cocinar. And if you plug in the formula in red on your right side of the screen, you can see that it fits right in. That means you all like to cook. Ejemplo número 3. Nos gustan las frutas. In this example, I started with my IOP nos, which indicates that it's to us, to we like. Gustar is conjugated with an N, so I've gotten rid of the R and replaced it with an N. Why? Because the noun that follows it, which is fruits, it's now in its plural form. Okay, that concludes our Verbos le gustar video. I hope that you've enjoyed. Remember to follow, like, and share those who are in the same journey as perfecting their Spanish language or simply learning with me. I also want you to be patient. Grammar, it's a little bit more difficult to understand, but practice makes perfect. Hang in there. Ciao, ciao.